So, good morning, everyone. Afternoon by 1 minute if you're on the East Coast. I'm Susan Bocamazzo, and I'm the Managing Director of the Legal Group here at Bridgetown Media. I want to thank you for joining us for our program today. We're going to be covering managing client intake, case management, and communication in the AI era. And our panelists today are going to examine all three elements of the client experience, including real life examples and data from firms that are already using these approaches. A couple of matters before we start. First, the presentation is being recorded, and you'll all receive a copy of that recording along with the materials by email. Secondly, our speakers will all be taking questions, and you can enter those questions into the Q&A bubble, which appears at the bottom of your Zoom screen at any time during the presentation. Now I'd like to turn the proceedings over to our panelists. And so I'm going to ask Brian to take it away.
Thank you much. Thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate everybody's time today, and I really appreciate you guys inviting us to this presentation. We're going to have some fun. We've got three speakers today. So my name is Brian Billig. I am the VP of Customer Education and Content at Assembly Software. We are the ones behind the Neos case management platform. And joining me today are two pillars of the legal technology community. First, Andy Stangroom. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Brian. Thank you very much. I'm Andy Stangroom. I'm sales director with YoCierge Records Retrieval. We're about 10 years old. We retrieved about 500,000 records last year, and I'm located right between Baltimore and DC, not too far from Annapolis, Maryland.
Nice. That is the nicer side of Baltimore. I'm on the other side. And also Matt McClellan from Hona. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and talk. This is right in our wheelhouse to talk about. So I'm excited to be here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hona. Been running Hona for about 5 years, which is crazy to think how fast time goes. We've worked extensively with Neos, and I think we're getting some relationships going with YoCierge as well. So it's good to be amongst you both.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you both joining me today. What we're going to cover is basically, a before, during, after sort of process with case flow. Meanwhile, it's all actually during. But Andy is going to kick us off talking about the ever important and the always challenging medical record retrieval process and how YoCierge can help tackling that. I'm going to kind of take the middle section once you've got all of those documents, making sure that your internal system is organized, that you know what you're doing, that you've got everything where it needs to be. And then Matt is going to bring us around to bringing the client into the loop on everything that's happening with their case and everything that Hona is capable of doing during that process. So we've got a 1, 2, 3 for y'all today. So with that in mind, Andy, if you're ready, I'm going to let you kick things off for us.
All right. Appreciate it, Brian. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here with everybody. So the first point we talk about turning the black box, of records into client touch point. That's really right. The black box is kind of where the details are, right? Everybody needs to find out what happened, how it happened, to what extent, who was to blame. So that's a real big piece of it, and we're kind of in the nitty gritty, the very beginning of a lot of that process with YoCierge. So when it comes to AI and retrieving records, particularly on the front end, when most people in the legal industry hear AI, the conversation tends to go in one of two directions, right? Either it becomes about efficiency. Hey, how much time can we save? How many tasks can we automate? How quickly can we process the information? Or it becomes about fear. Is AI going to replace jobs? Will this reduce the need for staff? Will this make legal work less personal? And I think we find that not only in the legal industry, in every industry today, right? Every time you turn on the news, AI has just eliminated other jobs. So it's no different in the legal profession. But I want to suggest a different way to think about AI in the context of personal injury law. Instead of asking, what can AI do for our firm? Maybe we should be asking, what can AI allow our firm to do better for our clients, right? Because in personal injury law, the product is not just legal work, right? The product is trust, it's communication, it's responsiveness, It's the client's experience of feeling like someone's actually guiding them through one of the most difficult periods of their life and their family's life. It can be very tragic on a lot of different levels. And that's where I think AI, particularly in the areas like medical records retrieval, becomes really interesting. So let's start with something very familiar to anyone in the space. Medical records retrieval is essential to every personal injury case, right? You can't evaluate the damages. You can't build demand packages or properly understand a client's medical history without it. But the process itself is often fragmented, manual, and I'm sure a lot of people know how time consuming it can be. Paralegals and case managers, I hear it all the time in demos that we do, are constantly, man, I'm sending requests to providers. I'm following up repeatedly. I'm logging into multiple portals. I'm tracking down missing documents. I'm managing fees and authorizations. I'm trying to determine what has and hasn't been received. Andy, can you help us out? I hear that a lot. So it's not glamorous work, but it's critical work. And now it's football season. I almost say, right, it starts in the trenches, the offensive line, defensive line, you got to do the blocking and tackling. And it's not glamorous, but it starts there. And that's really what a lot of times what we try to help firms and our clients do. It's critical. And here's the key issue that we see. From the client's perspective, none of this is visible. The client doesn't see the follow-ups, right? The client doesn't see the administrative effort. They don't see the complexity behind the scenes. They only experience one thing, how often their attorney communicates with them and how informed they feel about their case. The gap between internal effort and external perception is where firms often lose opportunities to strengthen their clients' relationships. So now we'll talk about visibility and then velocity. Now, this is where AI and automation start to matter in a meaningful way. When we talk about AI and records retrieval, especially through tools like YoCierge, records retrieval, we're not talking about replacing legal judgment. In fact, we on our team, we have over 300 human records retrieval specialists to do the work of getting the records. So while there's a really big role for AI, we still use over 300 people that have to still fax, phone call, email, the kind of the old school work to get things done. But we're talking about reducing the friction in the process of organizing information and avoiding overcharges by providers and the state mandated fees. So AI can really help. They can identify where records are missing, track outstanding requests in real time, reduce manual follow-up, and streamline communication with providers and organize incoming documentation more efficiently. But the real value we see, honestly, is not just operational. The real value is what happens when the firm gets time back, because time is the most limited resource we see in a personal injury practice. Every hour spent chasing records is an hour not spent on something else. So let's talk about what changes when a firm is no longer buried in administrative retrieval work. Well, attorneys and staff can now return client calls faster, right? They can provide more frequent case updates, very important to their clients, spend more time reviewing case strategy, communicate more clearly with insurance adjusters, focus on preparing stronger demand packages, and most importantly, engage more meaningfully with their clients. This is where AI stops being a back office tool, in our opinion, and really starts becoming a client experience tool, because the client doesn't experience records retrieval automation, right? They're not experiencing that. The client experiences, my attorney called me back the same day. They already had my medical records ready. They knew what was going on with my treatment, and they explained my case clearly. Now that's transformation. One of the most important things to understand about AI and legal services is that the best systems are often invisible to the client. The clients aren't evaluating your tech stack, right? They're not asking whether you use automation or AI workflows. I mean, heck, they were probably just in an accident, just in a hospital. That's what they're worried about. They're evaluating things much simpler. Do I feel taken care of? I think that's huge. Do I feel taken care of? In fact, I was looking at a Google review for a potential client the other day, and they had a lot of outstanding reviews, but there was one star, and it came down to communication. They felt like they were being passed off. They weren't being communicated with. And to the firm's credit, they got back to him right away and took care of it. But that feeling is shaped by very human interactions, responsiveness, clarity, consistency, and confidence. AI supports those things indirectly by removing the bottlenecks that prevent them. So in that sense, AI is not replacing the human side of law, it's protecting it, right? So that's when we talk about really it's helping the legal profession out. Go to next slide, Brian. There's another layer here that's often overlooked. Medical records are not just administrative documents, they are a narrative foundation of a personal injury case. They tell the story of how the injury occurred, what treatment was provided, how the client's condition evolved over time, and what limitations or complications developed. And you can see all that in a record. And then there's ways to see that save a lot of time. So when firms struggle to obtain or organize those records, it doesn't just slow down the case, it delays understanding. And when understanding is delayed, communication with the client often becomes reactive instead of proactive, right? You really want to be proactive with your client. You don't have to react when they're calling or they're sending you an email. You want to be proactive. That gives them a real sense of being a part of it. So when records are available faster and more reliably, something important changes. Instead of the general check-ins, they ask for more specific, meaningful questions. Hey, I see you followed up with orthopedics. How'd that appointment go? Are you still experiencing symptoms that you had in your last visit? Has your treatment plan changed since the last update? Those conversations build trust in a way that generic updates never can, because the client feels seen, not just represented, right? So they ask for your representation, but they really want to feel seen and a part of it. So the real competitive advantage here is there's a tendency in the legal industry to talk about technology as a competitive advantage, but I would challenge that framing a little bit. I think as a company, we challenge that. Clients do not choose a personal injury firm because it has the most advanced systems. I mentioned that a little earlier. They choose a firm because they believe the firm will fight for them. The firm will communicate with them. The firm will not let their case fall through the cracks, and the firm will treat them like a person, not a file. I think that's huge, right? That interaction that you want. I think we want that in any business that we go to as us. We want that same kind of feeling that we're the number one, we're important to them. So the real competitive advantage is not we use AI. Wow, we use AI. I mean, that's you hear that everywhere, right? It is we have more time and better systems to take care of you. That's a much more powerful message. And it's the one that clients actually feel in their experience. Next slide, Brian. This is where we feel like we become really relevant in a practical sense. The challenge in most PI firms is not a lack of effort, it's a lack of bandwidth, right? Teams are working hard. They're often constrained by manual processes that consume their time and attention. We really try to help reduce that burden by using technology and AI-enabled workflows to streamline the retrieval and management of medical records. Two examples we see that are really important to our customers. Number one, we catch overcharges before the records are delivered. So we're giving the requester a chance to approve. They could cancel it or they could adjust the scope of the request. I think that's really important. I can't tell you how many clients I've talked to where they were just shocked in some of the charges. Well, AI is part of a tool, a first pass tool that we use to catch those overcharges to really stop that from happening. And number two is the ability to get medical and radiology records electronically the same day, usually within 30 minutes. But again, the real value is not just speed, it's what the speed enables. Faster records means faster case development, faster demand preparation, faster decision making, and more importantly, more time for client engagement, right? You want that engagement with your client. And the last point that is often one that gets overlooked, because when firms are not overwhelmed by administrative retrieval work, they can shift their focus back on what actually drives client satisfaction. That's communication and advocacy. So we think the most important shift happening right now in legal technology is this. We're moving from thinking about efficiency as the goal to really thinking about the experience as the goal, the experience with your client as the goal. Efficiency matters, don't get me wrong, because it all plays a part here. Again, kind of like the tackling and blocking that happens in football, but only insofar as it improves the client experience. If efficiency does not translate into better communication, better responsiveness, or better outcomes for the client relationship, then it's incomplete, really. AI and records retrieval is a perfect example of this. On its own, it's an operational improvement, but when applied correctly, it becomes a client experience improvement. And I'll close out on this. So as we think about the future of AI and personal injury law, I think it's important to stay grounded in what actually matters. It's not about replacing attorneys. It's not about removing the human element from legal work. It's about strengthening it, making it stronger. Because the parts of legal practice that clients value most are not parts that can be automated, right? They're the parts that require judgment, empathy, communication, trust, just to name a few. So AI should not compete with those things, it should support them. So in the context of medical records retrieval, it really means what that really means is simple. If AI can reduce the time spent on administrative work, then attorneys and their teams can spend more time doing what clients actually hired them to do: advocate, communicate, and care. And in personal injury law, we feel like that may be the most important outcome of all. And I will turn it over to you, Brian.
Andy, buddy, that's fantastic. I want to talk, but before I go into my thing, I want to talk about your thing for a moment because there's some stuff here that's great. First off, I totally get that the medical record retrieval space is a busy space. You know,
Yeah,
people have options, but hearing you talk not only with passion, but about not the law firm's experience exclusively, but the client's experience as well
yeah,
is really powerful. Like I can feel how passionate you are in this space. Everybody talks about, you know, technology and numbers, but I can tell you know what these folks deal with on a daily basis.
yeah. We hear it all the time, and it's painful, and it gives them time back. But again, ultimately, how they are and their attitude and how they're doing the job is going to reflect to their clients.
My new favorite phrase, you kicked off with this, the product is trust.
Yeah,
I've never heard that before. It makes a whole lot of sense because usually a law firm's clients, they don't know what this process looks like.
right.
They're dealing with a whole world of other problems and they
Yeah,
need the law firm to do what they do because they don't understand how to process that or deal with any of it. So all they can do is trust, and all they have to judge is the experience they have with that law firm.
yeah, exactly. Yep. Couldn't agree
Very,
more.
very cool. All right, I'm going to dive into my section here, talking about managing the case. We're going to talk about case management systems, kind of generically, but I'm going to be referring to Neos repeatedly because you know that's home field advantage for me. But everything that we discuss, regardless of what system you're using, should be able to accomplish these tasks. I do want to remind folks there is that Q&A button at the bottom. Andy's presentation was fantastic. We're going to try and hit questions at the end. So I'm going to run through my stuff. Matt's going to run through his stuff, and then we will hang out and answer any questions you have. Just don't forget to submit them because he covered a lot of good stuff, and I don't want you to get to the end and think, oh, I was going to ask something. What was it? Feel free to park it now, and we will circle back around and hit as many of those as we have time for. Uh, all right. So let's talk about managing the actual case. And the most important thing I can tell you here is that you cannot update the client on the status of their case if you don't know the status of their case. So that's where we're going to kick things off. In Neos and you know and in any first class case management system, we have a complete workflow management process. This means that for each case type that your firm handles, there's a list of tasks that need to be completed every time, who's responsible for completing them, and when they need to be completed by. This creates an assembly line, not just a creative name, for your firm. Think of it like a case factory. Your entire firm is set up, and all of these cases need to come in one end, go through the entire process without anything ever being missed or dropped, and hopefully come out the other end successfully. Now, some people get caught up in the, well, you're telling folks what they need to do next aspect of this. This attorney or that paralegal's been doing this for years and they don't need to waste their time being told what's next. The list of tasks and telling people Who needs to do what when is only half of it, though. Having that task list for all your cases means you know exactly where each individual case is in the process. And if these tasks are, excuse me, I'm losing my voice already. If these tasks are grouped into phases like investigation, negotiation, settlement, etc., then you have a real view of your entire case inventory, the whole factory, how many cases you have in each phase, and then can manage your pipeline appropriately. When it comes to informing your client as to the status of their case, the very first and most important part of that is you knowing the status of their case yourself. So, how can we do that? First, breaking up case workflows into stages like this is the way to keep yourself organized. If they're all in stages, then you know where everything lies and you can respond accordingly. But if you break it up into those stages I mentioned, it also provides an opportunity. In a bit, Matt's going to talk to you about client communication, and I'm not going to steal his thunder. But if your cases all go through a similar process, it becomes much easier to provide the client with important updates as their case crosses important thresholds. If a case is moving from investigation to negotiation, that's a perfect moment to update the client and let them know what to expect during this next phase of their case. Andy was talking about checking in with them about, their medical status and their treatment plan, and that makes them feel like you have a good sense of what's happening with them. But the other aspect of communication is making sure that they have a good understanding of what it is that you're doing, what they can expect from you, and what you should expect from them. All right, let's switch tracks for a moment and talk about AI. The big buzz around artificial intelligence is usually around its ability to write content, whether that be an email, a letter, a pleading, or a big, well done demand letter. AI is very useful and powerful for all of these things as long as you're using the right tool for the job. But that tends to overshadow some of the other types of productivity gains that AI can provide. My favorite type of AI features are what I call consumptive AI, meaning instead of just generating content, it consumes content that you provide it, such as medical records. Once medical records and a whole host of other documents are received, your system should have the ability to read these key files. They should extract medical details, pull financial items out of invoices and put them where they need to be, use that data in a variety of ways. And my favorite is to look at all of this and create clean and up-to-date case summaries. Gone are the days of opening up a case and having to spend an hour reading files, swapping between tabs, reviewing all of this data in different locations to get up to speed. Every case should have a paragraph or two outlining a couple of key things. What this case is about, who's running point, what the status of the case is, and a quick summary of the key financials. At a glance, you should be up to speed and ready to tackle whatever the case or client needs from you. Let's move on to our next slide here. This is the advantage of having an AI embedded right into your case management system. So Andy mentioned AI on the front end with medical records. I'm sure Matt's going to talk about AI options on the client communication side, but I also want to push the concept of having an AI live where you work. This way it has access to everything that you do. It has all the context it needs to provide you with helpful tools and resources. And then when you need to deep dive into a particular subject or need a fast answer that may be buried like needles in a database haystack, this is the perfect mission to send your AI on to review everything and come back with the answers that you need fast. I'm going to finish up with some simple stats here. When you and your team are organized, if you build your case factory and an assembly line where everyone knows exactly what part they play in every case, you see significantly faster case resolutions. When you build AI right into your system and your workflows, not only can you generate impressive, detailed documents, but you can also consume all those records and files coming your way in a much more efficient and less manual way. This is the power, again, of having the right tools for the job. Okay. With that in mind, and again, questions at the end, if you want to ask them, I am very excited to again introduce you guys to Matt McClellan from Hona to dive into the concept of client communication. Matt, floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian. And thanks to both Brian and Andy. You've really set up exactly what I want to talk about extremely well. And I think that all has to do with just being a client-centric, like personal injury is very client-centric. They have a lot of questions. There's a lot of emotion behind these cases. And with that is the entire evolution and beginning of Hona. A lot of you may know us for like our Domino's pizza tracker for legal cases type product where case management integrates, and as things are updated, let's use Neos as a perfect example, as tasks are completed and as phases change and as medical records are retrieved, Hona then gets to work updating clients in real time, keeping them updated, giving them a resource like a Domino's pizza tracker, like an Amazon package tracker. That's what we've been doing for a really, really long time. Now, with the data and workflows and experience we have in working with over 1,000 firms, we got some really amazing insights into what AI should be helping with in the vein of client communication. So last year, Andy called out 500,000 records. That's incredible. Last year, Hona, we sent over 20 million text messages in and out of our platform with plaintiffs, over 1 million plaintiffs engaged last year. Really, really cool data. And the common theme was that your staff, if you're a case manager here, if you're an attorney here, case managers and paralegals and people who are doing the client communications within a case are doing it like 80% of it is redundant, the same 20 questions or the same 20 themes over and over and over again. Now, that's great. We should always answer those same 20 themes. They're obviously questions for a reason. However, staff has so much going on and they're managing 100 plus cases, 200 plus cases. We have a firm right now handling 500 plus cases per case manager. It's really hard to context switch and be as responsive as you want to be to your customers and clients because you have to completely look into their file. You've got to look at the conversation history. You've got to see what you told them last. And, if we do have those records back, I love the YoCierge product because it helps kind of bridge that gap. But all of that is something that a system like a Neos probably knows. Like the data lives in there. And so with the right integration, you can actually use AI to handle 80% of the redundant conversations if it has the right context without your staff having to context switch and move over. So Brian, if you go to the next slide, we'll start getting into kind of how that works. So it's important to know about their case. If early days of Hona, it was really, really rote templated messages. It was like, hey, the phase has now changed to the demand phase. That means we're now going to go collect your records and we're going to da 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 da. What the new agentic era is the messages look totally different. It's, hey, the legal staff has updated your case to the demand phase. We have most of your records in already, but we're still waiting on a couple to start drafting the demand. We'll let you know if there's anything else needed. Let us know if there's any questions in the meantime, but that's the phase we're at right now. A very different type of message, right? That just looks so much different than what it could have been in the past because that AI has the context. It knows what doctors you went to proactively. It knows which of those records have now come in. It knows the bills that are still outstanding and the ones we haven't been able to receive from those doctors. All of that comes together in feeds with systems like YoCierge, feeds with systems like Neos, to be able to have the whole context of the case so that when a client asks, have you got those records yet? It doesn't take a case manager to go look at their notifications 2 hours later and then get back from lunch and be able to be like, oh no, we haven't gotten that yet, or let me go look to see if we've gotten it yet. And then it's such a time constraint on our support staff to go back and forth and deal with that sort of thing. And so this is the new age. Is AI is amazing at redundant work and autonomous work where it has the right context, right? And I say 80% it can handle that. There's 20% that needs the human touch, because Andy called out something that I feel very passionate about, which is that trust building should not be taken lightly. This is an emotional experience for your clients. Your clients are scared, they're injured, their lives have changed in a lot of situations. It's extremely important that we're building trust proactively throughout the case. When they get responses quickly, guess what? It feels like it's a human responding to them, because it is an AI that's been deployed by the law firm they hired, that has context on their case, and that can answer that really simple, how long does demand drafting take, right? Like, that's great that the paralegal got to that the next day and responded, hey, it normally takes a couple days, we'll let you know. But what's even better is if the AI responds within a minute or two, gives them that solace, gives them that understanding, builds that trust. And now when you get on the phone with that case manager or attorney and you're discussing an offer that you got from the insurance company, they're really pleased with the experience they've had with your firm. Hopefully my passion's not showing through too extreme. But I think
no,
it's
we're with you, buddy.
Love it. So the client hears from the case, not just about it. That's the check-in before the appointment, right? We've all gotten those text messages. Hey, can you still make it to your appointment 24 hours from now? An AI message looks very different. Hey, Matt, are you still going to be able to meet with Dr. Johnson tomorrow at Wasatch Spine Center? Let us know. We can help reschedule if not. Yes, I'll still be there. Wonderful. We'll confirm with you afterwards to see how that appointment went. Both of what I just said are not humans having to write that. That's the ability. If you go to the next slide, Brian, that's real time an AI who just knows what appointment's coming up, and it looks very different, right? Hey, Maria, quick check-in with your physical therapy with Dr. Reyes tomorrow at 2 p.m. Are you still able to make it? Yeah, I'll be there. And then also the insurance adjuster called me today. Should I talk to them? That's what the client's saying back. Like, that's very common to get that type of question. And every case manager needs to answer that question the same way in behalf of your firm. But guess what? You can give the AI that same context. And so all of that works together where this is a real, we scrubbed like any private, like Maria's not the real name and Dr. Reyes is not the real name, but this was a real interchange between our AI and a plaintiff and a patient. But good question. I'm glad you asked. Before answering that one is one for your legal team. I flagged it for Sarah, your case manager, and she'll call you in the morning. Like, that's incredible. That it was able to just kind of get ahead of that, give them the solace, answer their question immediately. Your legal team's now going to be in touch. Now, what it often looks like is Sarah can just message in. She'll get a notification on those 20% where the AI didn't want to handle it or wasn't able to handle it with their scope of work. It gives Sarah an escalation and says, hey, this person has a question regarding if they should talk to the insurance adjuster. You may want to respond to them. And then guess what? The AI also gives you a response drafted that you can either send or edit from there. And constantly improving, constantly learning. It sees what you changed from the draft. And then next time it's probably a way better draft. We all know that. Like, AI is getting better and it's learning. And Sarah has a different tonality than maybe Katie or someone else on the team who might be writing and communicating with clients. We've built all that in because we want to make sure that we're maximizing the human experience and maximizing that trust, all while creating a better client experience. After hours, 30% of text messages to our law firm customers come in after hours, the inbound text messages from customers. Now, the average experience is that they don't get even a response until the next day. And hopefully it's the next day. Median response time, this is going to sound crazy. Median response time of people using our platform, which I like to think of law firms that use our platform as really savvy with communication. Median response time is 14 business hours to an inbound text message. Now, simple math, there's 8 business hours in typical day. That means they're not getting a response till the next business day in most cases. That's slow. That's not a great client experience. Some firms are way better than others. However, that's not the client experience any of us want for our customers and clients. And something like a really like an AI solution that has some context and can handle 80% of those text messages. We had a client called me the other day and said, Matt, the AI went back and forth with the client 15 times at 10 o'clock at night because their settings were set up to be able to respond after hours. Some people just say, hey, acknowledge the response and say the staff will get to it when they can. This guy's like, why not? If it can answer the question, let it answer the question. And so that's the type of experience his customer got at 10 o'clock at night, probably just watching Netflix, had a question on their case, was top of mind, texted into the firm, and they had a really good exchange that the lawyer's like, this is amazing. It can do this. And no human's going to be there monitoring a 10 o'clock text message from their customer or client. So anyways, all that to say, AI can do more than you think it can if you have the right system in place and you give it the right context. We integrate with all the case management systems, Neos being one of the predominant best integrations we have. It allows for some context to be there where the AI can have the right context, and you can also define its scope. If you don't want it to be able to answer any questions, you literally can just say, just respond, acknowledge text messages, and let the team know that there's a text message that came in. That's awesome. And it's really is the future of how I think, A, you give a client a better experience, but also B, you can just handle more, because those disruptions of jumping between case files, though Neos makes it great to know and understand like kind of the vitals of a case file, it just takes minutes to, tens of minutes every time you need to go out of one case into another just to respond to a simple text message. Brian, why don't we go to the next call? I think it's worth calling out just some of the metrics that and there are other systems. I think we've leaned deeper into like care coordination and medical management than any other AI I know of, because I think that's the hardest thing to tackle, and it's easier to tackle it's harder to tackle hard things, but once you get the hard things right, it's easier then to spread to easier things, is kind of my mindset and mentality. But look at the results here. We had a firm that went from 75% treatment compliance because they tracked it super well to 90 days later, they're seeing 86% medical appointment compliance. Like, what does 11% more of your appointments being attended by your clients do for gaps in treatment, do for case value, do for bills? It does a lot. And so the right systems in place can make the clients happier while also making the bottom line of the law firm happier, but also the better outcomes for the cases, which is what we're really all about. And then about 70% of routine treatment outreach is just handled completely by AI. Did you go to that appointment? When is that next appointment? Did you get any referrals at that appointment? Those are all things that AI can and should do at scale for your team, because your team just can't handle that at scale, but they can handle the 20% of exceptions. They can handle what's necessary to build the right trust. We have a client, they're out of New Jersey, Rooney down at the bottom. Rooney handles 240 cases. And he's called out so many times, just like, we can't handle the care coordination to the level we want to handle it at the scale we're at. It's just not possible for humans to do. So he's employed this AI to help do best practices of care coordination and keeping in touch with the clients and keeping them updated, while he just monitors escalations and exceptions and is on top of the client experience. He still gets on the phone at least once a month with every client, but his conversations look so different, right? It's not, what doctors have you seen in the last 3 or 4 weeks? It's, hey, looks like you've been to so-and-so and Dr. Anderson and Dr. Stangroom all in the past month. How are they treating you? How's your treatment progressing? It just changes the dynamic of the whole conversation. It's much less about like redundant data collection and much more about like trust and caring for the customer and client and being able to build up the case in the best way possible. With that, I'll just call out, I am the first one to say that if AI is supplementing your client experience, you're doing it wrong. It must be additive to the client's experience. It must be additive to your staff's ability to treat clients and help clients and be the best law firm possible. If that's not true, then we fail as a software provider and a technology provider, and you're probably not doing great as a firm if you're employing things that actually, supplement or make worse that client experience. They will go to other law firms if they don't feel like they're being taken care of. and a proactive system that keeps lockstep with them throughout their entire journey is the best way to keep a client exceptionally happy and understanding the process that's at hand. So with that, Brian, thank you for the time. That's most of my thing, unless I have another slide, which I don't think I do. Let's chat through that.
Matt, thank you, sir. I found myself giggling the visual of somebody sitting at home watching likely a legal drama on Netflix, and then deciding to communicate with their attorney about their case and just going back and forth between them into the evening hours is fantastic. That's an amazing tool that is capable of that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think it's like I've asked this question to attorneys and paralegals and case managers. If you only had one case to manage, how would you manage that case?
Hmm.
Like if you had all the time in the world just to manage one case best, they're like, well, I'd be talking to the client multiple times a week. I'd be following up right after the appointment ended. How did that go? Was there anything new? Did you get new referrals? And it's like, okay, is that possible? And they're like, of course it's not possible. I have 200 cases. There's no way I could do that. And it's like, well, with the right systems in place and the right context and your updated system in Neos or whatever system it is you use, it's possible today. And you can train this up like you can your best case manager, or even better, your best case managers can train it up and make sure that it's handling things how it needs to be handled. And you're getting like all the benefits of being able to do so. So it's pretty cool stuff.
I love that theory because yes, it's not the only case for the law firm, but it is the only case for the client. For them, it is a one-to-one experience. For you, it may be 1 to 250, 500, however many cases you're handling. But for them, this is the only thing. And if
And
you
that's
can treat everyone like it's the only thing for you, that's tremendous.
and that's what's interesting is they hired the firm because they've done it a million times, right? Like they want the
Hmm.
firm that's done it
They
the
want the
most.
experience. They want the
Exactly.
talent.
But they also they want their expectations are that they're going to get all the attention in the world, because I think that's a really cool kind of flip to how I framed it, where it's like that's the only case in their life likely. And
Hopefully.
so we've got to treat them like they're one and done, and that they're gonna get the best experience possible while working with your firm.
Awesome. All right, Matt, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have moved to the interactive portion of the webinar. You have listened to us talk about everything that gets us excited and passionate about this world, but we want to hear from you. So one, I'm going to move to Q&A, and while I review the questions, we actually have some polls for you. So we're going to kick off with our first poll about medical record retrieval. So Marvin, if you can send that out for me, already there, awesome. Feel free to take a look at the question and pick your response. And while that's going, I'm going to start picking a few questions out of our list here. Matt, I'm going to start with you because I saw this question come in while you were talking, and I wanted to know the answer to it as well. So the question is, do clients know that they're talking with an AI, and how do they react to it when they've got that back and forth? I asked this selfishly because it's the end of summer and I'm going through all the doctors and dentist appointments with my kids. And I get
Uh-huh.
the exact text message you described, like the wall, the block of information. And at the very end of it is like type C to confirm. And it's the most impersonal thing in the world. So
Yeah.
what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I think, well, I have a very strong thesis that like if you're trying to convince your customer they're not talking to AI, you also miss the mark. We shouldn't be doing that, right? Like we
Okay.
should be transparent. All the firms that use our AI, I say like it's worthwhile to mention in the intake. By the way, we've employed an AI that's going to help you manage your case, and it's going to be really interactive with you to make sure that like things are being worked up properly and that you're getting the best care as possible. Make sure you know if you ever need us, just we'll be there and we can get into the loop as soon as possible. However, like if you are trying to act like this is a case manager, then you've probably missed the mark. And so we have the AI, and a lot of firms, they'll actually have the AI have a little signature line in the text message that'll say
Okay.
like, Voto and Cavalli's care coordinator or something like that. So like it doesn't feel like it's coming from their case manager, Susie. Um, and I think that's important. Okay, but to answer your question, um, they don't know. Engagement rates are higher actually than they were when humans were writing the text messages. We're getting higher response rates, more interaction, longer text back and forth. Because think about it, a case manager sends a text message off, someone responds 2 minutes later, and then the case manager's already moved on to another task, and
Right.
they don't get back to that till the next day, right? And so like they know when they text back that this person's really attentive. And when you're texting with someone who's texting you back really quickly, you get a lot accomplished in a very short amount of time because you're kind of just sitting there watching them type and then you're going back and forth. So better engagement than when humans did it. And no, they probably don't really feel like they're talking to AI because it's been trained to be so conversational that it texts like a human's texting. That's important because like you don't want those big blobs of text. When the AI needs to go get 3 answers from a customer or client, the case manager typically will send a big long text saying like, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. The AI actually breaks it because they have to move on to another task after they send that text. But the AI just sends one, very conversational. Hey, by the way, do you have that driver's license photo? We weren't able to get that. Could you send it in now? Great. They send it in. It actually sees the photo and says, "Hey, that looks like I also need the backside of your driver's license. Sorry, I didn't mention that." Like it's very impressive how it like ingests the documents and information and it feels very human. Long answer to your question, feels human. We try to make sure they know it's not a human. However, they engage with it even better than they do with humans.
No, I appreciate that. It's the difference between, an AI actually, consuming and generating something unique to that conversation as opposed to like the templates that like, this goes out Thursdays at 2. It's an actual something's thinking about it and responding. And certainly the back and forth is a different level of communication than a request that's thrown over the fence and then is just answered with silence. All right. So first poll ran. We're a little shy. We're just getting started, but that's okay. If you can, Marvin, let's kick the second poll up there. I think it's about case management, but I'm going to pick a question for Andy if you're up for it. What's the one thing clients complain about most when it comes to their medical records? So what's the big problem area, and how do you help solve it?
Yeah, so I think it always comes back to waiting. Tom Petty, waiting's the hardest part, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
From our customers, the firms that we work with, it's certainly waiting and from their client's perspective, it always seems to be, look, they've already gone through the accident, the treatment, the appointments, everything's that comes with being injured. But the medical records become a bottleneck. The client may hear, we're still waiting for your records. We're following up with the provider. Well, that's frustrating because the client doesn't really care that a provider has a difficult portal or something like that. They just want to know, hey, is my case moving forward? And that's a problem that not necessarily record retrieval takes, but some providers are simply difficult to deal with. Um, but I think from our perspective with our customers, our customers have to deal with that, but we feel confident that they can see with our portal and the tools that we have, they can literally see every detail, who we've spoken to, who we've talked to. So we feel like that's a big plus. Again, we have over 300 record retrieval specialists from a human perspective. They're doing a lot of that. But we're also able to update in our portal and also the case management systems, like Neos, where they can actually see details of what's going on, who we've talked to, where the bottleneck might be. And even to that point, we'll even file a dispute if they exceed the 30-day, HIPAA thing. So, waiting's the hardest part, right? It always that becomes, and that really
It
touches
becomes
on
the
the,
soundtrack.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's again, especially being on the very front end of the case and having to find that it's really important. And again, people just went through a lot of pain. They want to know, hey, am I moving forward or not? So we do everything we can to help and get that and and make that a better relationship with them as well.
Nice.
So
Thank you. Our poll results came back with uh, The concept was, why are clients calling? And a member of our marketing team put in the answer: they genuinely miss our delightful staff and want to talk. And I love that answer so much. And I'm so disappointed that nobody could honestly answer that as the option. I would have loved that concept, that just like, the firm is so friendly, we want to check in, but there's always things to be done. There's always concerns that the client has. So if they call in, one, you have to have the ability to respond to that quickly, but two, anything you can do to be proactive to communicate with them, to help them feel informed before they even need to pick up the phone and call you, regardless of what they're watching on Netflix, even better. All
Yep.
right, we're only going to poke you guys for one more poll. So, Marvin, if you can throw that third and final poll up for us, we'd love to hear everyone's feedback. Everybody, feel free to respond to this poll. Um,
Brian, I see a question for you, the Neos
yes,
team too.
fire away.
When a client calls asking where the case is at, how should a firm be set up so that anyone can answer that on the spot? Not just one
Oh.
dedicated, how do you set that up?
It's a good question, and it flies in to the territory I was talking about setup and organization. Here's the trick: every case is unique in some way, shape, or form. They should all flow through a similar process. And it shouldn't be the same for all cases. You should have a dedicated process for motor vehicle accidents, a dedicated process for medical malpractice or premise liability, or whatever case types that your firm is handling. Each one should have their list of tasks and their stages, phases, whatever you want to call it, that they're moving through. So one, if you're organized, folks will know, okay, it's this type of case, and it is right here on the assembly line. I'm right in the middle of the investigation process. So you'll be able to see that at a glance. But in order to go further than that, that's where AI comes in handy, in my opinion. Something that, instead of you going, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to look over there, I'm going to check this thing, it's going to say, I'm going to run through all of this, and I'm going to give you a breakdown of everything that you need to know, quick and easy. So that's the case summary concept, something that's capable of looking at all the data and providing you the answers. Obviously, we have a lot of lovely integrations with YoCierge and Hona and others. One of my other favorites is integrating your phone system. You can do that with Ring Central and a couple of others, but the concept there is that if your phone system is tied into your case management system as well, usually these days, or people are calling from their cell phone, which is a uniquely identifiable piece of data. So when they call in, your integrated phone system will actually pop the case. So not only are you going to answer, say, the name of your law firm, or if it's been transferred to you, and answer their questions, but you know who it is and have the case open and the summary available to you before you click that green telephone icon to even answer the call. So you are ahead of the game before the game even starts. All right, that was three pieces to answer one simple question, but I struggle with brevity, Andy. It's an ongoing challenge for me. I apologize.
No, no, you're good.
All right. Poll number three. How do you find out when a client misses a treatment appointment? And the majority is, we don't really track it. Without a question, I'm going to kick it to you, Matt. Thoughts on that answer?
Yeah, so I think probably 10, 15, 20% of firms are aggressively tracking the actual treatment appointments, right? They often
Hmm.
track like, okay, we know you're going to this provider. Have you seen any new providers? But like the appointments are important. And once again, this is a scale thing. It's really hard to do at scale, is to know about every single appointment your clients are going to. But what that does is it just allows for really, really quick, like, hey, sounds like you went, did you get a referral? It allows for things like that to get them moving down their care journey quicker, right? If you get a referral to go get an MRI and you don't find out that they got an MRI referral and they've been too busy and it's 2 weeks later and it's like, oh yeah, they told me to go get an MRI. that is a large gap in a treatment journey that the insurance companies just deem as like, hey, this obviously wasn't that bad of an injury, and they have all their data on their end to be able to
Right.
diminish the value of your case simply because you didn't get them to that MRI as quickly as you could because maybe that MRI happened. That client that I gave that snippet to about earlier, he got alerted. He had an escalation set up that anytime someone gets an MRI, it's going to alert him. And so what he did is he got the MRI notification. He calls in to the imaging facility. They email him over the MRI stuff within an hour, and then boom, he was able to get them into an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon the next day because that case manager is just amazing and knows how to notice a tear in a shoulder. And so, like the next day, they were in with the orthopedic surgeon when in reality, that usually would have been a week or 2 or 3 later. But that's just case management 101. You want to be deeply in touch with these people. Track it if you can, or employ the right systems to track appointments. It's worth it.
I completely agree. Gentlemen, it has been a true pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to call it here. If your questions didn't get answered, I apologize. We just kind of ran out of time here. But we're going to bring Susan back out to help us wrap things up. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And Matt, Andy, your passion. I appreciate you both.
Of course.
Thanks to you guys. Appreciate it.